What is up, guys? Welcome to the introductory video on this course on Pot Limit Omaha, and we're going to start with the question why PLO, and we'll also talk a bit about what's coming up in this course. Perhaps you're watching this as a Hold'em player, perhaps you're already an established PLO player. Either way, why PLO? There are many reasons, but let's list some of the key reasons. First and foremost, softer games. Whatever win rates you can reasonably expect to generate in Hold'em in the modern era, you'll be able to generate higher win rates in PLO. A large percentage of PLO players don't really know what they're doing. It's kind of like Hold'em was 10 plus years ago. Now, to some extent, you will also be worse at PLO if you don't have a lot of experience playing it. But generally, you don't need to do too much here. If you have any kind of reasonable strategy, you are going to do very well in the majority of PLO games. And if you are interested in breaking into the higher limits as well, the barrier for entry is still quite a bit lower than No Limit Hold'em. Another reason for that is PLO is more resistant to RTA and solver use in general. Hold'em game trees already push the limit in terms of what's possible if we want these fully comprehensive solved game trees involving preflop action. That already takes a large amount of system memory or RAM. When we start looking at PLO trees, 4 cards dealt preflop, many more starting hand combinations, some of these trees become absolutely massive. So the practicality of having full accurate PLO solves is a lot less than it is in Hold'em, and as a result, RTA bots in PLO, much less of a thing than in Hold'em. PLO is also a game which arguably has more skill than Hold'em. Now, that might not sound like a good thing, that might sound like a reason to not play PLO if more skill is required. But generally, you should think about more skill as being a good thing because it allows us to generate a larger win rate differential. Give you a really simple example. Think about the game Noughts and Crosses, or tic-tac-toe as it's called in the States. You could be a really good tic-tac-toe player, but realistically, how much of an edge are you going to generate over another really good player? You're not. But then take a game like chess, for example, extremely complex, and think about how the strongest chess players will routinely destroy beginning players. So really, the higher the barrier for entry in terms of skill level, the better it is for us. And most poker players would say that PLO requires more skill than Hold'em, simply due to the fact that we are dealt 4 cards pre-flop. Now, it's not quite so straightforward to say that PLO is definitely more skilled than Hold'em in every area, because there is one component to Hold'em, which is the ability to bet larger than pot size. So technically, in any given situation, there are many more bet sizings available in No Limit Hold'em. So in some senses, that could lead to larger game trees, depending on the part of the game that we're looking at. But despite the fact that we can only bet up to pot size in PLO, it's generally considered a game that entails more skill than Hold'em. Besides, if you look online, you will even see some examples of No Limit Omaha games running, and even if it's not really a thing right now, it could become a thing in the future. So this opens a possibility of playing other variants like No Limit Omaha, and the big variant that's really exploding in popularity right now is PLO 5, that's 5 card PLO, and also to a lesser extent we do see 6 card PLO games online as well. And if we compare PLO 4 card and PLO 5 card, there's actually a big difference even between those two variants. Not so much in terms of strategy. Strategically, 4 card and 5 card PLO are very similar. But in terms of the ratio of recreational players to regulars playing in a PLO 5 game compared to 4 card PLO, there are many more recreational players in PLO 5. It's much softer than PLO 4 card, which is already fairly soft. And the reason is fairly straightforward. There are regs who have just been exclusively focusing on PLO the last 10 plus years, but there hasn't really been so many 5 card PLO games online, and certainly not 6 card PLO. Generally, the regs that are already doing pretty well at 4 card PLO don't necessarily want to switch to 5 card because they're already winning. We find that the ratio of recreational players is much higher in 5 card PLO. And most of the skills that you learn in this course are directly applicable to 5 card PLO and 6 card PLO. It might sound like there's a very big difference between being dealt 4 cards and being dealt 6 cards, but there's less of a difference when you consider that regardless of whether you have 4 or 6 whole cards, you can still only use 2 of those whole cards to actually create a hand. That's part of the rule in PLO. You must use exactly 2 whole cards. So although it does significantly increase the likelihood of making a very strong holding, it doesn't increase the likelihood as much as if, for example, we could use any possible combination of the 6 cards that were dealt in 6-card PLO, for example. So you can see that learning regular 4-card PLO, which is what we'll be focusing on in this course, is actually a gateway to playing some very soft variants of poker online, where you really don't need to have that much of a skill set in order to generate very high win rates. I would almost imagine that if you were getting into poker for the first time, maybe we've just about reached the point in the course of online poker that you should just step straight into the PLO games. Because Hold'em's getting tougher all of the time. PLO is getting tougher as well, but the games are very, very soft. So it could be a great starting point. There's no reason why you have to play No Limit Hold'em if you're a new poker player. So what will we cover in this course? This course is going to be solid introduction to PLO strategy. We're not going to go super advanced. Think about this as a solid beginner/intermediate course. You'll still learn many things in this course which are not properly covered anywhere else. And it's not necessarily because they are groundbreaking aspects of PLO strategy. It's simply because the coverage of decent PLO strategy is very poor online. Although there are poker training sites out there, the majority of the content is based around No Limit Hold'em, and the content that is based around PLO is often extremely weak. Even after watching this course, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to assume that you'll be able to beat the majority of PLO games. Of course, your mileage may differ. It really does depend on how well you understand and apply the concepts. But everything we discuss in this training course is the core skill set for beating the majority of PLO games when applied correctly. And I don't think this is something that I could necessarily say about a No Limit Hold'em course, simply because the opposition is a lot tougher in No Limit Hold'em. You could watch a course in No Limit Hold'em, but then still have to do a lot of work on your game and maybe watch several other courses. PLO, you could probably just watch this course and you're going to be doing pretty well in the majority of games. So with that said, look forward to catching you in the course and helping you take your Pot Limit Omaha game to the next level.